Hi everyone, how's everyone doing here today? Thank you for watching. Kind of got stuck in the rain here, so what better time than to shoot some video? Anyhow, judging from the title, I'm not so much here to talk about the film Titanic or any of the previous films. Yes, James Cameron did a good job. Frankly, my favorite is A Night to Remember. However, this is more not so much about the doomed vessel, but about the doomed submarine that recently went down there to try and explore the Titanic. It was sort of this special tourist thing put together where a group of people, I believe it was about 5, that, you know, some of them considerably wealthy, that wanted to pay to go see the Titanic. And just a few days ago they lost communication and people started to assume the worst. It wasn't looking good, and now from recent headlines it is determined that it looks like the sub imploded, pretty much killing everybody on board, which is an unfortunate tragedy. Not to get off topic, James Cameron made another documentary called Ghosts of the Abyss, where he actually did that. Him and the actor Bill Paxton from the latest film Titanic, which Cameron also directed, actually went down to explore the Titanic and take some footage. I don't know if they actually used some of that footage in the film itself. Regardless, I have to admit, when I watched that documentary, I recommend that too, it's pretty interesting, and I actually thought to myself, that would be really cool to try. Okay, I'm one that likes to explore and do different things, so when I hear about things like that, I wonder if there's any way that I could possibly do that. Truth be told, no, that's not going to happen. Obviously, it's not like flying to another country. There's a lot more involved. One of the reasons that led to the failure of this recent incident is that the sub wasn't properly made, it wasn't properly tested, there were a lot of issues. Pardon the plane flying over, and you know, there were some things that should have been resolved prior to a little bit more testing, and there were some other factors involved as well. You can read up about it, but this tragic is not really a big surprise. Now, what I am focused on is that on the social media there were a lot of people talking about it naturally. And because some of the crew members were wealthy, a lot of people were thinking like, oh, good for them, you know, they died, good, they were wealthy people, they deserved it. And it kind of illustrates a much bigger problem that's going on in the political system. I'm not one to do stuff like that. I mean, I don't know the people that were on board. I read their names, I'd never heard of them, so I can't really judge. Now, let's say, for example, this was two of the people on board were Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, who we all know pretty well. One being the owner of Amazon and the other one of Tesla, who recently acquired Twitter. These people are considerably wealthy and also not with the best of morals. In fact, a lot of things they do are pretty questionable. So, and given both of them recently took rocket ships to space, you know, off the money that they've acquired over the years, it's like, if that happened to them, would I be posting something on the media saying, yeah, good, the world's a better place without them? No, I wouldn't. On the flip side, deep down, I wouldn't be shedding any tears, and a small part of me would think that maybe it is poetic justice, something like that. But that goes to the other point I'm thinking about, is that we have a very small percentage in our country, the United States, that controls a vast amount of the wealth, more than the rest of the 99%. Go imagine that. And it's unfortunate because if we just changed a few things in our political system, things would be dramatically different. So right now, a lot of these people that are speaking out against this crew that recently perished, you know, most of them I imagine are just middle-class workers, you know, people who are poor or poverty and are feeling pretty outraged by the way they've been treated by the political system on the whole that I just described. So I kind of get that. So here's some of my thoughts, because in the past I've watched other documentaries like about the food industry, about climate change, about the mortgage crisis that occurred under Barack Obama, and all differ slightly, but they all trickle down to the same problem, and that is where it stems from, where you have people of wealth who are corrupt, or big corporations that were working hand in hand with corrupt politicians, to have things, bills and everything, custom tailored to suit their needs, while giving the rest of the country the shaft, the working class, people like us. Which is something I've talked about before, where I feel like that if we had certain changes, that a lot of things could be vastly different, and while still, allowing these wealthy people out there to keep a considerable amount of wealth. Now, I'm not assuming that every single wealthy person is immoral or corrupt, and I'm just thinking not every one of them is opposed to stuff like this. Now, let me give you some examples. What would be a good change that's been talked about before that I believe Biden tried and failed at? And frankly, I think he should have tried way harder. Here's an example. Increase the minimum wage to $15. Why? This way, a lot of poor people out there have an increase in income, and it would make it easier for them to support themselves and or their families if they do have families, okay? Here's another thing that we could do, with a lot of the wealthy inequality going around. Medicare for all, or universal health care. Call it what you want, but a lot of the other countries that are doing this, whereby in the United States we have a lot of people, millions out there, that do not have health care. To me, that is unacceptable. And if we just made a few changes in how wealth is distributed, through taxation and other means, guess what? A lot of these people that don't have health care could have health care. Suddenly they'd be more taken care of. Now, what are some of the arguments I hear? Oh, how are we going to pay for this? How are we going to do this? Or, well, here's one example. We could do away with the Trump tax cuts for the wealthy. That's a good start. It would also help on the deficit that Trump caused. And just to be clear, this is a political issue. This isn't something about Biden or Trump or any certain politicians in general. This is happening on both sides. We're seeing it a lot more on the GOP, whether you agree with that or not. But the bottom line is, Republicans are just as guilty, and so are Democrats. Joe Manchin and Christian Sinema, those are the two prominent Democrats that come to mind. Oh, I'm sorry, Christian switch parties. Anyhow, I don't want to get off track here, but yeah, here's one thing you could do. You could do away with the tax cuts, This way the wealthy people won't be as wealthy, God forbid. And some of that money can be used to help some of the other people that are more in need, okay? Here's another thing that's been pitched in the past, is a wealth tax. That's something both Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren have suggested. Now, I've talked about that with, not on video, but with just voters in general. And some honestly ask, how would you go about doing that? And I'm not an accountant, I'm not a financial expert, so truth be told, I really don't know. Like, would you tax their income alone? Would it be their capital gains? Would it be their savings? I'm not sure how to do that, but there are ways that it could be done. And certain wealthy people have protested against this, naturally. Gee, I wonder why. But here's the thing. Even if you did a wealth tax, even if you did away with the tax cuts for the wealthy, here's the thing. Pretty much all these wealthy people out there, this small percentage, would still be wealthy. They just wouldn't be as much. And with that money you acquired, you can use it to help take care of some of the other Americans that truly are in need. Okay? I mean, what are some of the things I'm hearing? Like, for billionaires. So maybe they wouldn't be able to fly in a rocket ship. Oh well, too bad. Guess what? I'm never going to do that. Any more than I'm going to get a chance to go down to see the Titanic. That'd be great, but it's not going to happen. And I'm fine with that. But some of these wealthy, they feel entitled. They're like, well, I got all this money, I can do whatever I want. To a point, maybe, but we still got to think about the other Americans out there. And don't tell me it's all so much about, well, they work very hard. Maybe they did at one point, but I think it's more the case there, they knew how to play the system, okay? Some of these people are considerably wealthy because they are corrupt. Like the head of CEOs of some of these corporations that don't fully take care of their employees, I too say that is unacceptable. And there should be changes made so that unions are allowed, so that employees are taken care of. Like I said before, increase the minimum wage so that they're also more taken care of and that they get a lot more benefits. company like Amazon, Jeff Bezos, he could easily afford that. I just think it's by choice. I know that there are some places where there is a minimum wage of $15, but it's not nationwide, and it should be. Okay? So what? Some rich guy's got 4 luxury yachts and he wants to buy a 5th one and he can't now because of the wealth tax? Boo hiss. I don't care. You got, alright? I don't need a fancy yacht. A lot of people don't have fancy yachts. Get over it. You wanted to fly into space, and now you're not going to get to do that because of a wealth tax? Well, let me get my violin for you, okay? I guess you're just going to have to live with it. Guess what? A lot of people, you know, like myself, I do okay. I mean, I fall within the middle class. I'm not the upper middle class. I'm not poor, but I do okay. But I don't have a big fancy house. I don't drive a luxury car. I don't get to go on vacation as often as I'd like. And when I do go on vacation, it's just in your average hotel, not a 5-star place. I don't live in the lap of luxury, and I'm okay with that. You know why? Because I care about other people. Unlike some of these other politicians and corporations and other wealthy people who like to lobby to cater things towards their way. If somebody said to me, if they did a wealth tax for somebody like myself that falls in a different bracket, they would say your taxes would go up a little bit, not dramatically, but a little bit, and you'd have to pay more in taxes, you know, moving forward. However, in doing so, that would ensure that a lot of people that don't have health care would suddenly get health care, especially families with 1 or more children. You know what I would say? Go for it. If I was a billionaire or a millionaire, I would say the same thing. Go for it. Charge me a wealth tax. I don't care. I'll still have a certain amount of wealth, and I can live with that. I'm still going to be a middle-class person. I'm never going to be wealthy, and that's fine. I can live with that. Okay, so maybe it's 1 less vacation, but you know what? I'm willing to make that sacrifice, unlike some of these other rich people out there. Okay? Elon Musk, he bought Twitter for, what, how many billion? You could have taken a fraction of that money and probably fed a considerable amount of homeless people in America. Some of them vets. They don't do that. Like I said before, Joe Biden could have really gotten the minimum wage, I honestly believe, if he tried considerably harder. I think he tried it and it didn't work, and he just said, okay, it's not going to happen. I don't agree with that. You know who else could have done a minimum wage hike? Donald Trump. Earlier in his presidency, when he had both control of the House and the Senate, he could have easily done that, I believe. And he didn't, and you should ask yourself why. Now, I know some of the cult members are going to say, oh, it's all on Biden and Trump. BS, okay? He is just a part of the problem as well. Because he too takes donor money. He too likes to accept lobbying money and lobby himself in order to get things catered towards his way, okay? And as I said before, it's not just about certain politicians. It is a problem across the board on both the Democrat and the Republican side. Maybe not all politicians are doing that, but a good enough of them are doing that where we are in this position today. So yeah, when a submarine of rich people goes down, I can understand why people might feel a certain resentment or feel a certain gratification, like good, they had it coming. I don't know who these people were. I read the names, I'd never heard of them. I don't know how wealthy they were or how they acquired it or whether they were corrupt or not. I'm not assuming that every person who is wealthy is corrupt. There are some that actually really do merit the wealth that they have. And there's some out there who are okay with a wealth tax, while others will whine about it. And like, you know, certain people on Fox that are well off will say, well, the poor, those that are struggling, who don't have health care, they just got to pull them up by their bootstraps. It is nonsense. And I know what the argument I'm going to hear also when it comes to like wealth tax or minimum wage or universal health care. It's socialism. No, it's not. It's governing. It's called the government doing their job and taking care of the people. All of the people, not just the 1%, not just the ones that voted for them, not just the ones that catered or lobbied towards them, but taking care of all of America. And other countries are doing it. It is history. It's happening. It's not some pipe dream that can't be achieved. Because when you hear things about tax cuts for the wealthy, which Trump has also talked about, also making cuts to Medicare and Social Security. Oh, I see. They want cuts, but not for the 1%. It's for the other working class that have to, you know, make the sacrifices. Give me a break. Tax cuts for the wealthy, perfectly fine. But when you say some of the things like I just pitched, they're like, well, how are we going to pay for it? Just like I said. Tax the wealthy. do away with the tax cuts for the rich. They don't need to be taken care of. They're doing fine on their own. It's the other people that do that. Okay? Maybe I'm never gonna get to see the Titanic. Oh well, it's just not meant to be. But you know what we could see? We could see politicians working more in trying to taking care of the working class, taking care of the poor that actually do need help. Okay? That is their job. That's what they're supposed to do. And the way we can assure that is by voting out the ones that aren't doing the right thing. Okay? I'm not here to talk about, go into specifics against one or two particular politicians, but we do need to make changes. Okay? So, we can do it, but we got to work towards it. It's up to you. In the end, it is up to you, the voters. Okay? Because there are some politicians out there that we can't count on that are never going to change. So, anyway, it's always up to you, and I really hope you understand because it's important that you do. So, thank you for watching.